All right, so my name is Jean Schnupp, and thank you all for coming out to a Savvy
Okay.
Sightseer travelogue. A little quick background on me. I am a former teacher. I taught business, computer, and English. I was also a freelance reporter for a while, and obviously I am somebody who loves to travel. Now, before the pandemic, everybody knows I used to have a table out where I had flyers about all the different programs that I did, and I had what the raffle items were and some other brochures and things like that. And obviously that went with COVID and social distancing. So that's what you're watching here right now while we're waiting for any latecomers to come. This is the programs, all the other programs that I offer. You can see it's gotten quite diverse. Before the pandemic, it used to be strictly Northern Europe. When you can't fly out of the country for 3 years, you have to start mining new material. So I went into doing United States destinations as well. This one is Cape Ann, that talks about our maritime legacy. When everybody thinks of us having a naval side, they think more of the South, but our entire maritime industry started in Massachusetts. So that one's fascinating. It looks at all different modes of our maritime history. I look at whaling boats, lobster boats, pontoons, the schooners, all kinds of things. I have some specialty ones. I have a haunting on Long Island to Salem for Halloween. That one actually came about as a fluke. One of the other libraries asked me if I could put together something that had something to do with Salem and maybe Sleepy Hollow, and then what I could find for Long Island. And it turns out there's a whole lot of haunting going on here on Long Island. And we have ties that one of the ghosts that haunts Sleepy Hollow also haunts Long Island, Oyster Bay. Yeah, he flies through the night, I guess. I don't know. And we also had the witch hunts 35 years before Salem did here on the island. So there was a whole lot of things. It's very interesting. Isle of Man is the newest one that's going to be coming out at the end of the summer here. And because a lot of people have never heard of Isle of Man before I started researching it, I hadn't either. And it turns out that that is an island in the Irish Sea, surrounded by Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, but it is not a part of the United Kingdom. And actually it serves as a pretty good tax haven for people from England who have a horrendous tax rate, and they don't have to follow the same monetary rules. So there's all different kinds of things that you can look at. These are also on my website that you can click on a flyer on my programs page, and it will open up the flyer for you so you could see these full size. And at the end, if anybody wants, I can give you my card, but the address, the web address is also on your handout. Okay, so everybody's got that. So that's the basics. And of course, if you have any questions about any of the programs, by all means, let me know or let your librarian know. Okay. And so, as I did mention, I am a former teacher. So as far as I'm concerned, it is 6 o'clock now. And so we start. All the important people are here, right? So if anybody's late, too bad. One thing, if you had looked at my website previously, then you'll notice that it's a little bit different. That's because of a good thing. I ran out of room on my navigation bar, and so I had to go with categories instead. The information that we'll do today, including an extra copy of that handout, will be under the Going Solo tab. All right, so you can look there if you want some additional information. This travelogue is different from most of my others because they're destination. They talk about a particular place, but this time we won't be looking at a specific destination, but rather the tools that I use to plan a successful vacation. We do have Shakespeare to thank for the phrase, "The world is my oyster." And in the 21st century, there really are very few boundaries to where our vacations can take us. There's a wealth of possibilities out there. The challenge is narrowing them down and figuring out the logistics for a trip. When I start planning a vacation, my very first stop, of course, as a computer teacher, you won't be surprised, but my first stop is my computer. You have the greatest travel tools of all time to help shape your journey. There's so many options, though, that it is easy to get overwhelmed and go off track and get fed up and frustrated and stop. Okay, even longtime users of such well-known sites as Expedia and TripAdvisor or search engines like Google or Bing don't know how to use them effectively and efficiently. You'll learn some tricks here and some tips to help make your searches fun. and that your planning can be an exciting challenge to put together that trip of your dreams. No matter what type of trip you like, plane, train, automobile, or whether you're going to a destination that's near or far, there are lots of apps and sites to use. Access is generally available in multiple ways: online, on your phone, on your tablet, etc. Some are only usable as apps, but they also have websites where you can go and you can learn a little bit more about what they have to offer. Most are available for both Android and Apple devices, but that changes daily and more options are always coming along. I can't possibly, even if I pack this hour full, take you through all that's available. So we're going to focus on my free favorites. And don't be thrown if you go to a website or you look at an app and it looks somewhat different than what you see here. They are constantly updating them. And so things might be moved around. The information, though, that I'll give you today is generally still there someplace. You just might have to look around their website for it. First step in planning has to be figuring out where to go, what type of trip you want, and then how are we going to get you there? Unless you happen to have a bucket list place in mind, narrowing down the where can actually be a lot harder than you realize. There's so many options out there. And of course, the good news is there's an internet world full of people and sites that are all too happy to help you with that. Some sites are prompters. That means they'll give you categories that you can scroll through until something strikes your fancy and the light bulb kind of goes off. Here are just some of the many planning tools that are out there. Most of these are in app form as well, but I find going to the main site online easier because you've got the bigger screen to work with and you've got the mouse and you can scroll around a little bit easier. Some sites are dedicated to exploration. Some include that as part of an overall aspect of their site. Many sites now are one-stops. In other words, you can get information and you can book directly there. Some are better for certain areas than others are. You'll find the ones that best suit your particular surfing style and your interests. There is no one perfect site. And you're going to find out that cross-checking is always a good idea, because for most places, you have to understand, hello, lady. There's a spot right over there if you'd like. Don't rush. I'll wait for you. You just missed the boring part of who I am. You already know. Okay. Yeah, she keeps me going here. Anyway, you've got to remember the bottom line for these places is they are businesses and they are getting recompensed in some way to make recommendations. So as with anything else, buyer beware. All right. Expedia and several large hotel chains have been sued for suppressing the information among the competition. And what they were doing was that they were putting people higher in the rank who paid them more for certain keywords. So most people will look at the first, like say 4 or 5 responses to a search, and they go with that. They don't go any further. So they were paying extra to be in those places. So sometimes if you go a little bit further down the list, you might really find that gem of a place. So it's worth knowing to look around. Some sites these days are even carrying a disclosure, but you know, in like that print that you can't possibly read. And it says things like revenue may affect the order of the results. Okay, so checking out more than a few is going to possibly get you to a really good one. So now we're going to look a little bit closer at some of the ways that you can determine a destination to start with. You might have to be 50 or over to join AARP, but the good news is there is no age requirement for using their travel tools. And here you can browse by destinations where the pictures are linked. So that's what I mentioned before, that a lot of these websites, they think everybody knows everything. They don't understand that not everybody has had computer experience. So it doesn't say click me, but if you click on the pictures, it will give you more information. Okay, such as the types of travel in a particular region. They might give you some specific city highlights, regional guides, or you could also click on vacation ideas for specific categories if you're not sure of a destination. So you might click on something like family vacations or history or outdoors, and they'll give you tips as well on the best time to go and what kinds of things to do there. Mainly on the AARP site, you're going to get American destinations. It seems to me that they partnered with Expedia for the European things. One site that I really like that uses an entirely different approach is MenuBay. It's a social travel network that's built from traveler and locals input. Its motto is get inspired and start planning. You can either plug in where you want to go or select from various options. Just to mention, the handout that you have, all of these are listed there. So if there's one that you particularly like, maybe you just want to put a check mark next to it or something along those lines. All right. So the goal for this is to provide inspiration for travelers to discover new destinations or sites, even restaurants, hotels, and shops, both locally as well as away from your home turf. What sets this apart is that they only use positive recommendations. They do not use objective reviews. So you're not going to find any negative assessments here. Well, of course, you don't know who is behind a post, and unfortunately, it could be someone who stands to gain monetarily by recommending it. It's still fun and informative to wander through their pictures. And according to the company, they have photos of over 3 million international travelers from the MenuBay community. I do like the overall different approach of using what's excited other people. So maybe this one is going to be the type that will your particular comfort level. Like I said, there's a search style for every taste and comfort level. Every website that you go to is going to give you a different piece of the puzzle. So it's worth checking several of these to see if a sort of theme starts to emerge of the places that you find interesting. U.S. News and World Report's approach is to identify why you might want to go to a particular place. Say Yellowstone Park. It says good reasons are it's America's oldest national park, and it is an outdoor enthusiast paradise. It has breathtaking natural attractions. It's good for all ages. It has miles of paths, hot springs, and mud pools. They also offer travel tips like the best month to visit, what kinds of weather you might expect, and how to save some money. If you have a favorite magazine or travel TV show, check to see if they have a website as well. Some popular ones are Parent Magazine. All you do is put travel into the search engine bar, the search bar, and things will come up for you. The Travel Channel. A lot of people have seen that on TV. They have a web presence as well. I do find there that their pop-ups that they use to cross-link with other sites is very distracting. As a computer teacher and marketing teacher, I do understand the practice, but I find it annoying nonetheless, and I just kind of try to ignore them. Then there's my all-time favorite travel guru, Rick Steves. Anybody ever hear of him? He's got a great website, got millions of things. He's got links to his videos. He's got audio tours that we'll talk about later. He's got written commentary as well. So lots of great information there. You can also use Google or Bing to search your general topics. The tip here I'll give you is to use quotation marks to narrow down the focus of a search. For example, if you wanted to do something like top vacations for solo travelers, you're going to get back every website that has the word top, solo. Okay, every single one of those. Put quotations around now. Instead of looking for individual words, it's looking for a phrase. So you're going to cut down more. That doesn't get rid of the ones at the top that say sponsored. They pay even if your stuff is nowhere near what they've got. But if you go past that, you'll find that using quotation marks will really narrow the focus and limit how many things are coming back. All right, so you might look for top vacations for solos or families or beaches or culture, whatever. And of course, there is social media. On your Facebook or Twitter or whichever page, you could find networks of like-minded people by putting in travel ideas or something along those lines in the search bar. And you're going to come up with oodles of sites and blogs and groups that you can investigate. Bear in mind, there are what's called influencers, those people who are paid to guide people to certain destinations or directions. So you really need to sift through the results for what you find interesting and what really does appear to be legitimate. And of course, that legitimacy you get by cross-checking different sources. And of course, we know that there are some not so nice people on social media. So do be cautious and do not share any personal information, especially your location and the dates of your travel. Because doing that, you may as well just post party for everybody at my empty house. All right, so make sure you are keeping common sense there. Now, all of these sites provide prompts to get you thinking and helping you to start narrowing down your field of options. As you're going through, you may realize that there are certain criteria that you really do want to include. And you could find out the things that really don't interest you at all. To help organize your findings, you might use a table like this to record your preferences, and then you can start adding places or items as you further start tailoring your options. You can print out one of these if you'd like by going to my Go Solo tab on the website. Scroll down, you'll see a suitcase there, and you can click it to download and print your own. Also, you can print a sheet of internet addresses like the one you have there. I do try to keep it updated. I waited until right before, I think about a week ago, I sent these out to her. So I try to make sure they're current. And they are all current and contain the information that I share with you in this program. But businesses on the internet all come and go pretty quickly, or they merge with others, or they change their fee policies. So just be aware that things may change, or a link may not even work by the time you get there, but that's kind of out of my hands. I've done the best I can. Okay, now that you know where you want to go, let's get you there. If your trip involves flying, air planning and booking is an important next step. Most people head first to aggregator sites, those that collect and organize content from a bunch of other sites like various airlines or car rentals or hotels. They all work pretty much the same, so I'm only going to walk you through a commonly used one. By the way, many of them are actually all owned under one umbrella. For example, you have Expedia. The individual ones that they bought kept their names because people had loyalty to them. But under Expedia alone, you have Hotels.com, Vacation Rental by owner, Travelocity, Hotwire, Trivago, Orbitz, Booking Buddy, and CheapTickets.com. That's really all Expedia. Another big grouping is Booking.com. They've got Priceline, Kayak, and even OpenTable under them. And TripAdvisor is even partnered with Expedia. One of the oldest of these is Expedia. So that's the one I'm going to walk you through. First, you select an option from stays or hotels, flights, car rentals, vacation packages, or cruises. Many of these aggregators push bundles or package deals. That's a very fast way to book all at once, but they are not necessarily the best deal for you. So I suggest you check them for comparison, packages versus individual bookings, and always compare the individual airline with the aggregator. Above all, read and understand the terms of the contract. In other words, the fine print, especially about cancellations. Okay, some of them will say free cancellation within 24 hours. Well, that's not 24 hours of when the flight is taking off. That's 24 hours from when you booked it. So if they make any changes after that, you're going to be paying for it. Now, I'm going to select flights only for a trip to Portland, Oregon. There are two key terms that will help you to search more efficiently. One is filter. Filter is what will limit the returns to exactly what you want. For example, you could select particular airlines to include or to exclude. So this further refines your choices and your thinking. The whole key here is to streamline stuff so you don't get lost and discouraged right away. The other key term is sort by. You use this to put your results in some type of order. You could do price from low to high, or how long a flight is, or how many stops or connections there are. You can even specify a departure time range. Think about how much needless surfing and scrolling you could avoid by using those simple tools. Also helpful is the option for flexible date. Now note the little arrow that's over there. Some people are not, diehard computer people don't notice that or don't realize what that's for. That is a helpful option to tell you you have more options. You have more choices. If you have the ability to be flexible on when you leave, click that and you might get a way to save some money. This is just a snapshot. Always check all of the information provided before you click buy. All right, you don't want to just select a flight at the very beginning. Namely, again, look at the small print. One issue I've had recently is that you're booking through one airline, but then it's operated by another carrier. And what happens then is you can't always use everything that you normally would directly with your airline, like miles, using miles, or prepaying luggage, or picking your seat. And sometimes the categories names are different. So you're not really sure, is this the category that has the bag included or not included? Also be aware of buy now marketing techniques. Only 5 of these are left. Well, that doesn't mean that there's only 5 seats left on the plane. What it could mean is just that that's all that's open to Expedia on that day, or that it's their quota for the day. And watch for the push to bundle for a great deal. Before taking that, look very carefully. Are they giving you the hotel that you would want, and a location that you want, and with the terms that you want? We're going to look a little closer at the hotel criteria later on. And remember, these prices are listed just as starting at prices. So we're going to select the nonstop flight, which shows you then will take you into the details for it, namely what it will cost if you want to pick your own seat, or even take as much of it as a carry-on, much less checked luggage, or to have any option to be able to change a booking. An issue that I have with Expedia is that they do not tell you exactly what that checked bag fee is. They'll tell you to go and look at it on a specific airlines. So with these sites, you really do have to do your homework so you can compare apples to apples in the end. And make sure that you check the flight times, not just the price. Do you really want to leave at midnight? Or do you really want to arrive at the crack of dawn? Remember, you're going to leave your hotel or your home several hours before that. So do you really want to get into a strange city at 2 o'clock in the morning? Those are the things to think about. Other items to take notice of, especially on the connecting leg of the trip. And remember, certain options at that stage will continue to add prices, add to the overall price. And it's important to look at that flight if it is not direct. For one thing, check the airport. There's some I'd prefer not to connect through. Currently topping that list when going to Europe for me is London Heathrow. It was a disaster in March of 2023 rather. It was an absolute bedlam. I hope it's improved by now, but that for me is not going to be friendly to me for a little while. Also check the amount of time for a particular transfer. Is it really doable, or would you be cutting it too close? Especially if you're changing terminals, or if you're going overseas and you find out that you have to go through customs again. For example, we did customs here when we landed in Heathrow, even though I was going to Portugal, still had to go through customs, and that's where the real nightmare started. So it really is something that you have to look at. Also look at the other end of it. Is it way too long for a layover? So you're wasting some of your valuable time. So things to consider. All right. I also get annoyed when the connecting airport isn't even going in the same direction I am. So in this case, why would I want to go south to Charlotte when I wanted to go out west to Portland? So those are just some of the things that get me. And of course, there will be those buy now prompts. So the flight that initially looked like it was $318 after I opted for the middle option that allowed for carry-on and had a decent flight and layover times, I ended up at $412, nearly $100 more. So don't forget, this also does not include the fee for checking any luggage. You'd have to call your airline for that. And of course, there's that call to action again. Now there's only 2 left. Hurry, hurry. And when comparing which venue you want to book with, always know, in other words, that end price before you click the first thing that comes up. All right, Google Flights is lesser known, but offers really good options. It is a super fast site, offers the nearby dates to consider automatically. You don't have to click through to it. And again, that can be great if you're flexible. After you enter the dates in the airports, the next screen will give you the drop-down menus or the drop-down arrows next to the airlines so that you can pick specific ones, or the flight duration or the layover city. So remember, a little drop-down arrow means you've got other choices. Some sites, like I said, assume that you don't need guidance for using them. Like their price filter here, looks like it's pretty much fixed. Like there's no other options. But if you hover over the ball, price amounts will pop up. And if you slide that bar to the left, then you're going to be able to set a maximum amount that you'll pay for that. So again, mouse around. I like the Explore Destination map for options for when you're still a bit fuzzy on some of the details. So instead of having to enter specific cities and dates, you just enter your home airport and a rough idea of the time. And then you can see a comparison of prices at different destinations all over the world. This is really good for getting a sense of which regions might be in your budget, but do realize these are guesstimates until you actually plug in specific dates and destinations. But this is how I realized I could take a quick hop from Scotland to Sweden one year for only $75 nonstop. So that prompted me to combine the 2 destinations. You're already over there. Google is constantly updating its look and moving things around. Usually on any website, you're going to find 3 horizontal lines or boxes or little balls like the one up here in the left-hand side. Again, not user-friendly to everybody. All right, but what that is, it indicates that you have a menu or a directory of the site there. If you click it and go to Explore, you'll be able to find the map if it isn't on the main page that particular day. You might look under that also if there's other information that you haven't been able to find quickly. One thing to keep in mind, for example, if you were looking to fly from, say, Tampa, Florida to New York City, you're going to see very different prices for 4 airports: Islip MacArthur, JFK, LaGuardia, and Newark. Before just clicking on the cheapest one, figure out if that airport is going to be accessible to your final destination, or if another one would be better for that. And especially in terms of time and money of what it's going to cost you. Hopper is another way to book flights, but it's one of the exceptions. It operates as an app only. It does have a web presence, though, that lets you see how the app works before you would want to download it. And then it does direct you to the Android or the Google Store to be able to get the free app. Another option, and one you should always check out, is the individual airline sites. This has some advantages. In addition to aggregator sites not letting you use miles, or some won't allow you to do multi-city searches, that means you're flying into one city but coming out of another one. You're not flying round trip. For those, you might have to go to the particular airline. Also, not all potentially available flight times and layover combinations are available on the aggregators. And some carriers, like Southwest, will not even allow themselves to be listed on those sites. So before booking a flight, always see what options and prices a certain carrier has to get the true comparison of which flight is the best all around to book. Further, they may provide additional services like alerts. We're going to get to what Real ID Ready means in a bit. And it could also store your recent searches so you don't have to go in and re-enter all the information each time you want to check and see how a price is doing. This I found when looking into flying into Salzburg, Austria, but out of Vienna, Austria. There are several things to look at here if you were planning on booking this trip. First off, why is it a 22-hour trip there, but a 12-hour trip back when Vienna is further east than Salzburg? Because it turns out there's an overnight layover in this one. So calculate in the cost of a hotel to stay. And you're not even flying into and out of the same airport. You're flying into London Heathrow and out of London Gatwick, which happens to be 45 minutes away. And now you have to figure out how you're getting your luggage and you to the other airport. And the price, right? What it would cost you for a taxi or whatever. And then look at the flight times carefully. If your flight leaves an international airport at 7 a.m., that means you have to be there at 4 or 5 a.m. Figure out what time you'd have to leave your hotel by. And I can tell you, there is nothing open at 5 o'clock in the morning at the airports in some places, because I made that mistake one time. That's why it's in here, because I wanted to share. You have to look at everything all the way through. So look at all the details before you book. Now, okay, American has a few handy shortcuts on their site, all on one screen. For example, they have the option for the lower price fares versus the more expensive, more flexible fares, all in the same spot. They have a price calendar, so you can easily find out if another date is going to be cheaper. Although I find that they, for some reason, only do that if it's a round trip, but not a multi-city. All right, but if you're doing a round trip flight, then that's a good one to use. As you can see, some dates would be very, very different from other dates if you're looking across the top. So you can go from 378 to 548. So if you could change the date, if you could be flexible, that might be something that is good for you. Okay, the different categories are each hyperlinked to their descriptions, and they come up as a pop-up on the same screen so you don't get redirected, and you can easily see the difference. And then you have the up-down arrows that let you choose the order in which the flights will be listed. For example, by the departure or the arrival time, or from the least to the most expensive. And if you click the arrows, in this case, basically it toggles to the reverse order. Now, Southwest has an entirely different look. Right now, they're going for the bar graph at the moment. And if you click a date, then you're going to see another screen with flight times on that particular date and the starting prices. No, they are one way, even though I indicated a round trip. You'll see many options within a day for departure times and layovers. You pick one, and then you're going to get a further breakdown of the price options for that one particular flight. And in this case, using their particular terminology, which is not always very helpful. With Southwest site, you will learn not to get too excited with the first price that pops up. It will rapidly change. This one, when I opted for the plus choice and got stuck with a layover, just to keep the price down a little bit, it actually came out to $400, a big change from what had looked initially like $155. Now, once your flight is figured out, there's some more tools to make the experience better. For some carriers, you can set up email alerts on their site to let you know of any changes for a flight that you're considering. So you don't have to keep checking back and re-entering the same data to try to catch a lower fare. If I'm not sticking with just one airline, I'll generally use Skyscanner and Airfare Watchdog. And as a little side note, it's a good idea to turn off the price alert once you've booked it, so that if a lower price comes in, you don't have buyer's remorse afterwards. Now, passing time between TSA and boarding can be a bit tedious, except for, of course, those elite frequent flyers who can get into the fancy airline lounges. But now, through apps like Lounge Buddy, all travelers can book guaranteed access to these airport oases, for a fee, of course. This app lets you explore the lounges in the different airports around the world. You can browse photos, amenities, and even reviews from other Lounge Buddy members. Flight Aware has some nifty features under its flight tracking tab. You can get a full list of all the cancellations and delays worldwide. And that was probably pretty handy these last couple of days. Then there's what they call a misery map, a real-time visualization of the flight delays and cancellations going on across the US. The arrow in the lower left-hand corner lets you kind of scroll through the advance of the different times of the day to update the map. Now, connecting through London Heathrow on that flight back from Portugal, I found the gate feature of this to be very useful. Heathrow only posts the gate number 45 minutes before you're supposed to start boarding. Heathrow, for anybody who hasn't been there, is a big airport. And I wanted to see if I could find out anything before that. So I went to FlightAware, and they already had the gate posted. And that was at least an hour before time. And that was really helpful because, as it turned out, from where I was in Heathrow, it was a good half an hour walk just to get to the elevator that I had to wait for it to take to go down, to catch the shuttle tram over to the other part of the terminal, take the escalator up, and then, of course, I was on the opposite side of the terminal from where my gate was. So buying the extra time by using the app, it was a little bit easier and a little bit less angst, so I could get there comfortably. Seat selection sites are also a very big help because you're going to be sitting in one spot for a couple of hours. So some individual airlines give you the maps from which to choose a seat. This one, again, is American Air's seat selection. You have to ask yourself, is it really that important to be able to look out the window? Or would you prefer to have an aisle so you don't have to step over somebody or be trapped next to that window? A first row seat is convenient for quick exits if you're connecting, but there's a lot of downsides to it as well. There is no tray or TV screen usually in front of you. You might have a small one that just folds out from your armrest. There's no underseat storage in front of you, and they could even hit you for more because it's generally more leg room. What I look for is where there are two seats only, not in the front row, and both seats are open at the time I'm booking. I take the aisle and I play the odds that somebody does not want that window seat and climbing over me. Now, it only works about half the time, but when it does, it's really nice because then I can kind of stretch out for the flight. For almost any airline, you can go to specialty sites like Seat Guru that give you even more information than just simply the seat map. It examines other amenities and then color codes them for a quick assessment. So a red could indicate that there's some kind of a major problem. Maybe the seat doesn't recline at all, or it might be in a colder section of the plane, or it could be right next to the bathroom, and your seat is going to serve as an armrest for everybody standing on line. Yellow could show that there's some concerns. Maybe the recline is not fully, or maybe the window is kind of situated between your row and the row in front of you. So if looking out the whole window is important, that might be something you'd look at. So general concerns. Green means this is a pretty good choice, and it may even have extra legroom. If you can't get a seat that you prefer, all hope is not lost. You can go to a site like Expert Flyer, where you can put in an alert for when a seat you prefer opens up. Sometimes seats are pre-booked by agencies or companies, and then they free these up closer to the departure time, or else, of course, some people could just simply cancel. Airport maps are very useful for learning the layout of the gates, especially for connections if you're in a rush. And if you're not, then it's a nice way to find out what kind of shops and restaurants are there. Like with flights, you can use aggregators to get help to find a place to stay, but you should always also go to the individual hotel sites. Often I have had a hotel offer me a discount if I book with them directly instead of through the aggregator. And some hotels choose not to be listed on the aggregators at all. That way they're able to save the commission fees and offer lower prices. You can also use travel forums like TripAdvisor for personal suggestions from other travelers, as well as guests' own pictures of a facility to find out about those hotels also that are not listed with the aggregates. When using private accommodations like Airbnb, really be careful. I have heard of some really wonderful experiences, and I've heard of some real nightmare scenarios. So that's one you really have to do your research on. We're going to use Booking for demonstration purposes. Hotels.com works. And if you find rates that are coming up as foreign currency, then look for a drop-down option like the one at the top of this page that will let you select American currency if you want. Also, again, look for filter options. This offers a slew of other options here that you can really use to save time and cut down on needless scrolling. These are just a few. You could also narrow down by brand names, and that's especially useful if you have loyalty points with a particular chain, or you need to identify handicap accessibility or other amenities. I also, again, like the map feature. As I explained in my companion program to this, Going Solo, which is where I go into great detail about considerations for making a hotel choice, I look to where 5-star tour companies are putting their high-paying clients. The tour companies, in other words, I can't afford. And then I look in that same spot for a 3-star hotel that is going to be more in my budget. All right, if you hover over each of the hotel icons, a pop-up will give you some of the basics. If you actually click on the icon, it's going to get you more information specific to that hotel. Notice how these are being organized by the company's top picks. Most likely, in other words, the ones who pay a higher commission to get listed higher up. Again, drop down that arrow and then you can change the sort feature to go from the lowest to the highest priced or whatever. Click on the property picture. Again, some websites assume user friendliness and don't specify click here. But if you click on the picture, that will give you more specifics about the hotel facility. And then you can look at the room amenities. Another tip from my Going Solo program is a hotel may say free Wi-Fi, but if you don't check, you might find out that that's only in the hotel lobby and not in each room. Photo sites are generally professional and may not kind of show you the whole picture, like how long ago that picture was taken and has it been photoshopped in any way. So for that, I like to go to the places like TripAdvisor, which displays the guests' own pictures and identifies when they actually encountered these places and when. Likewise, for reviews, again, you got to be careful, look for specificity and whether management replies, especially how they will address any negative comments. That will give you a real sense of what type of a hotel you're looking at. I just read one that I was kind of amazed that any business would act like this. A woman had complained that she was having difficulty, she was deaf or hard of hearing, and so she was asking that a tour guide in this particular place, address her where she could read lips. And the person evidently repeatedly didn't. And so when they got back to this place, she had said, you really should think about taking more consideration for people with handicaps. The manager on the website actually wrote, yeah, we heard some lady was really going crazy off on our people. That is, I don't care what kind of behavior she had. That's not how you reply. So I would be wondering if I would really be interested in that particular company. So anyhow, go again, when you go in through this, you're going to scroll down to get the specific room choices and the amenities. Always weigh the cost of free or nearly free cancellation. Yes, it does cost extra, but anything can happen. You could have weather issues. I have a friend who flew into Montreal today. I just hope she landed and she'll be able to see Montreal someplace as she's going around. Because if this is what we're getting here, I can't even imagine what it's like up there. There might also have transportation disruption, like in England, they've been having rail strikes all over the place. Or as we've learned, of course, a pandemic could strike out of nowhere. And you don't want to have to pay for something that in the end you're not able to use. So weigh the extra cost for that. Other options I consider are a free included breakfast. That's very convenient for starting your day, but also for meeting other tourists on the breakfast line. Maybe they have some ideas to share with you. And if you are driving, always check if there's parking on site and if there are any fees for it. Again, some of these sites will inundate you with marketing calls to action and try to frighten you into booking quickly, saying there's only one room left. Well, that might be only on their site and just for that particular moment. Go back in an hour, there might be more. Sometimes I'll plug in extended dates to find the best date range. This one is a lot less expensive if I can go on a weekend. That's because a lot of places, sometimes they cater to conferences during the week, business conferences, so the prices are high during the week. Everybody's out of there on the weekend, and so that's where the prices will drop. Or there might be a place where there's big events going every weekend and the prices will be higher on the weekend than during the week. So again, if you can be flexible, it can save you some money. Also look for the ones that have the loyalty rewards or the promo codes. Hotel Tonight shows you last minute deals that you could get. Of course, there's tools for other types of traveling, boats, trains, and car trips. iCruise.com operates like the other destination discoverers, but since it's only for cruises, it's faster to narrow down the destination. There's less cruise ports than there are airports. Cruise.com and Cruise Sail Finder are useful too. Among those, you could find things like deck plans and specific ship information. They might give you the cruise port points of interest, regional history, maybe even maps. They might also have the excursion options listed and the itineraries for most of the cruises. Some provide a gallery of the vacationers' pictures or give cruising tips or cabin choice suggestions, as well as the ability to set up those price drop alerts. Shipmate app has a bunch of features that will help you kind of get excited and prepared for your trip. They have things like a cruise countdown clock, so it ticks off the days to your departure. There's also deck cams, so you can see what people are wearing, get an idea of that. The man in seat 61 will recommend routes, times, how to buy tickets, and the cheapest train routes worldwide, including the United States. I find that to be an excellent site. Rome to Rio, definitely one of my favorites. It gives you all kinds of options to get from point A to point B, by train, by bus, by car, taxi, or air, along with the approximate prices and the times that are needed. It specifies even the bus or the train route numbers and gives you how many stops you're going to be getting along your way. So that I find to be very, very helpful. I'll even use that sometimes if I'm looking for a particular library I've never been to. Citymapper is a very highly rated app covering mass transit options. It gives the departures in real time. It suggests the fastest routes, combining the bus, subway, train, ferry, taxi, whatever. Citymapper gives step-by-step directions, including the best subway exit to reach the platform, and sends alerts when there's a particular line that's experiencing some kind of a disruption. Very importantly, for all of these things, you can set it to use the maps offline. Not every place has usable Wi-Fi all the time. So whenever using any kind of an app map, make sure, if possible, you set it for use offline. You won't, in that case, get the real-time data, but at least you're going to be able to still find your way around. You have to search the app for this feature. In fact, I had trouble finding, I knew it had to be here, but I had trouble finding the directions on this particular site. So what did I do? I Googled Citymapper offline in quotes. Took me directly to the tutorial. So when you, no, this is not just New York City. I'll get to it. No. Jumping the gun. Okay. But thank you. I know you help me with things I sometimes forget. And especially since this one is so jam-packed, as you know, I'm speaking double time, trying to fit it all in. I could have forgotten, but I do have it in my notes here. Okay, so when you do have the Wi-Fi, the map is completely interactive. You mouse over any of the modes and it updates the map. And you can plan a route even on your laptop and then send it to your phone. This app has come a long way in recent years. It's been partnering with a lot of other companies, and it used to offer only about 40 cities overall. And now it says it covers all major cities around the world. So that's why I say these are constantly changing. So this is one that I had to change my entire slide because I had the 40 cities listed before. Transit app is another one that's also very good for major cities only, again, but it has a nice add-on of if you want to use a bike or car or an Uber. Google Maps, very diverse, and they're adding more options regularly. It gives alternative routes for transportation, the typical mileage, the drive time. Even identifies if there's construction or accidents. They give you turn-by-turn directions that can be handed out print or vocally, and it's very useful. It's a good idea. Sometimes I'll take screen captures to use later in case I am offline. When I go to a library that I'm not familiar with, I use the Street View tool, that little orange guy in the corner. You take him and you drop him over a particular spot, and then it takes you into actual pictures of that area. It's frozen in time, but it tells you what year it was. But in that way, I can see landmarks for critical turns, so I can kind of familiarize myself before I head out. Road trip is for those who are not in a hurry to get to their final destination and want to find some off the beaten path places to visit along the way. Or maybe you just want to find some interesting places in your own backyard. Its route planner includes a fuel cost estimation and a function to explore places within a set distance from your route. iExit is a good pit stop finder for something to break up a trip or just to find out what's at the next exit. Gas Buddy shows the gas prices by company name as entered by other drivers, so it's in real time. Mainly, it's just for cash. It very seldom tells you what the charge fee is. They do have a drop-down option that gives the cost for premium, for regular or mid-grade, and diesel. And then there is a map option for those who do not know the actual names of the companies if you're in a place that you're not familiar with. Waze shows general traffic flows and problem stops with real-time updates by other drivers. It even mentions speed trap and red light camera alerts. But keep in mind, it can be edited. Like I said, it's being updated all the time by other drivers. So you really have to wonder, is this always accurate? One guy was found to repeatedly report stoppages on his street. It turned out there weren't any. He just didn't like cars coming down his block and found this a good way to redirect them. As you build your trip, you could find that keeping track of the reservations is a bit overwhelming. So of course, there's apps for you to help you out with this one. For some, you plug in your information. For others, you send the email confirmations and they organize the whole thing for you. Again, a former computer teacher is warning you, keep in mind you are giving your whereabouts and other information to a third party. So only do so if you have considered the ramifications of that and have read the fine print about what they can do with your data. I find Sygic is fun for all that it gives you. You identify the town and the dates you'll be there. I don't put in the real dates that I'm going. I just match the days of the week. So if something's normally closed on a Tuesday, that will still show up. All right. So it gives you pop-ups of the sites with critical information, such as the suggested time that you're going to need to do a site justice. And then you click the plus for ones that you want to add to your itinerary. It's pretty easy to get excited and want to add everything that comes up. So Sygic gives you a reality check. And you can see when the time needed for all the activities you've picked exceeds the number of hours in a day. It's a great app for collecting a lot of information about a place in one spot. You click on an icon for the details, including the picture you'll get, the description, a link to the website, the contact information, their hours, their cost, things like that. When you have your day all worked out, you'll see a suggested walking map, the anticipated time to get to each place, and an estimate for how much time you'll need to visit there. These can then be rearranged or moved around just by clicking. You can do this much on the website for free, or the app for free. You used to be able to print it out. Unfortunately, now they are charging a fee to print. So I like to use it just as a planning tool. And quite honestly, I can just do a screen capture and print it out myself. TripIt combines your forwarded email information. Generally, these apps all have more than enough tools in their free version, but if you want more, they usually have a pro version. And of course, that includes options as well as a fee structure. Now, once you get to your destination, there's any number of ways to see what it was that you came there for. Tours can be booked through a central agent or a local one, or the do-it-yourself walking tours. Viator is one that I've used a lot. It hooks you up with tour groups in local areas, but it's a US-based company. On one trip overseas, a guide didn't show up. Since I had booked it with Viator, not him directly, they handled the issue and ensured a refund, which the guide had not wanted to do. He said, "Oh, I'll give you another day." I said, "No, I'm leaving tomorrow," So he did not want to do it, but Viator took care of it, and they even threw in a voucher for a free tour. Get My Guide is similar in that. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Since these companies do deal in bulk bookings, they are sometimes cheaper than going direct with local. But as with the hotels, some of the locals will offer a discount for direct booking. It's always worth an email to go ahead and find out. Get Your Guide is similar, and it has click-throughs that give additional information like key details, tour duration, and traveler reviews. Audio tours let you bypass the group tours, but you still get the same experience on your own with the convenience of pausing, rewinding, and picking what time of day you want to take that walk. As I mentioned, I do like Rick Steves, and I've used his free audio guides in many of the cities I've been to. Pocket Guide figures out where you are based on your GPS, and you can activate a voice recording made by a local guide that describes the sites that are immediately around you. So your virtual tour guide explains it all and shares some personal insights, as well as some reviews that might help you decide where you want to eat, drink, or shop. With all these apps, remember to look for an option to use the maps or the routing and the city walk information offline. Most tourist destinations have websites that are operated by the Department of Tourism, which are fully vested in sharing the city with visitors. Unfortunately, they're often overlooked, but they are not commission-based like some of the tour agents, so they offer a wider range of activities and more detailed local information like history. Sometimes they'll even provide coupons or discount codes, things like that. So always think to look for that. Put the name of your city and Department of Tourism. Time Place is different in that it's more focused on non-tour options. In other words, events in the area, which are great to decide what to do locally as well as on vacation. I use meetups for finding out where local hiking groups are going out. Not actually organized groups, it's just people show up to have a hike together. Without doubt, at some point, you might want something to eat. Yelp is one of the many apps that provide dining information and general pricing. The maps make it easy to find places to eat within a specific area. Clicking on a place then gives you more details. You'll get a sidebar that pops up and everything from whether credit cards are accepted to what kind of an ambience you could expect there. Other types of these include Foursquare for tips on menus and price ranges. And you can also search places that you can save to your to-do list and then use that offline. OpenTable lets diners find and book a table. Menu Pages is good for accessing menus by cuisine or location in the United States, and some even show the prices there. Many places these days have partnered with Grubhub, Uber Eats, or something like that. So even if you aren't planning on getting delivery, you can still access the menus rather, to see what kind of stuff they have to offer. And that's especially handy if the menu happens to be in a foreign language. So you could ahead of time translate it and find out what a list of things that you might want to order. Around Me allows you to search for restaurants, gas stations, book a hotel, or even find a movie schedule at your chosen destination. Again, whether you're home or away from someplace. And again, that's based on your GPS data. It's available in a slew of languages: English, French, German, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, whatever. And if you are a TV food show junkie, TV Food Maps is for you. Bring up the places that are highlighted on those shows. Beyond your basic travel apps, there are great ones for accessories. YouTube videos can walk you through airports, even supermarkets, which I find handy to gauge prices and the availability that's going to be near your hotel. I like Walter's World. He's one that gives you some really good points and tips, both pros and cons, and he has a great sense of humor. I recently was going on a Globus tour through Portugal, and I was curious about what they did on their local tours. So I didn't plan to go to that on my free time. Somebody actually went on the same tour the year before almost at the same time of the year, and filmed every single day. He had 13 days of video tours. I'm guessing he had to wait until he got home to find out where he'd been. But for me, it was helpful. I could see what the people were wearing. I could see what places the tour company took you to, and then find other places so I didn't repeat. So YouTube is great. No matter where you're going, knowing what to expect weather-wise is useful. So you have AccuWeather or Weather Channel where you can put in a date range far in advance. But it is a weather predictor, so I would suggest you just take that as a guesstimate. Although generally I will use my credit card for just about everything when I'm traveling abroad, it is useful to always have a small amount of local currency before you go if you're traveling internationally. xe.com is a good place to get a general idea of what you might pay for starters. They post and update the mid-market exchange rate constantly. And they even show a history of a country's rate and let you set up an alert so that you can know when currency hits an amount you want. Then what you do is you go to your bank and you ask them if they will sell you foreign currency, usually a commercial bank. And then you got to remember to compare the total cost, that's the exchange rate, the fees, and the charges, all different with others. You compare the bank ones with other sources such as AAA. The final cost for AAA members is cheaper, or for bank customers is cheaper, but the added cost lately for non-members at AAA was still way better than what I was getting at the banks. And you have to do the same type of comparison with your credit card companies because they all look at things differently and different fees. So figure out ahead of time which will be the best card for you to use overseas. Making a cheat sheet is a good tool to make buying in a different currency a bit easier. You don't have to constantly be calculating what it's really going to cost you. Foreign travel is immensely easier if you have a good general converter app. Converter Plus has it all kind of covered in one spot. In addition to currency, it does the math for temperature, weight, and distance. You would like to know, if it's 20 degrees Celsius, do you need a jacket? If it's 40 kilometers away, can you walk that? Okay, currently this one is available only for Apple products, but there are a lot of others for the Android users. And contrary to popular belief, not everybody in other countries speaks English. So a translator app is a necessity for some regions. Google Translate has a nifty tool. You hold your phone or device up to it with your camera, and it will translate it right on your screen. Now, I've seen this, I've used it a couple of times. I've had very mixed results, but when it works really well. Yandex is another translator I like. And best of all, with both of these apps, they work offline, as long as you remember to download the dictionary for your language when you still have Wi-Fi access. You can type in the English or another language, and it will instantly translate, showing you even the word and phrases that it's typically used in. Or you could speak an English word or phrase, and it will orally translate it to the other language. Currently, nearly 100 languages are included. The link on your handout is to the web version. You would go to your app store for this version. A lot of people use Groupon and Living Social and such to find deals on places to go at home, but they don't think about using it on a trip. These are good to see if there's any kind of special deals available at the destination where you're going. And depending on where you're going and your service plan, your phone carrier could charge extensive fees like roaming and data charges, but there are some free or nearly free options if you absolutely have to keep in touch on a vacation. As we've learned during the pandemic, some of these include Google, Zoom, FaceTime, etc. Just remember your username and passwords. These might be automatic on your home computer, but if you're suddenly using another device, it's not going to automatically key in. So make sure you know that. Otherwise, it's pretty frustrating not to be able to access your favorite communication tool. And if you don't want to wait until you get home to share some of your pictures and experience, there's a number of ways that you can do that with various journal and photo repositories. I gotta love the title of the one in the middle. It says all about your intentions. Getjealous.com. It's a free travel blog or website where you can post comments, your pictures, your videos. You could show a map plotting your progress around the world so you can make your friends and family jealous. Visitors can post messages to you and to each other on your board. Again, though, if you're doing this in real time, think of what unspoken message you are sending to potential thieves. I am not home. I like to extend my trip and relive the memories through making a calendar. Every month, then for the next year, I turn the page, and for a whole month, I'm reminded of scenes that were special to me. Shutterfly, Vistaprint, and many others let you design all kinds of hard copy memories like calendars or coffee mugs. Look for coupons and promo codes because I know I'm getting inundated with them all the time. Flickr and Dropbox come in handy if you max out your camera card, or if you want to create a document like a journal that can be downloaded. Basic activity is free, but there's a lot of clickbait and spam to look out for on these types of sites. And more advanced features, of course, like extra storage limits, lead to subscriptions that you pay for. Privacy and ownership terms, make sure you read them. Google Drive is another place to uplink documents and pictures, etc. All you need for that is a free Google email account. I have a few other odds and ends on my devices, just for fun things like for books, movies, Sirius XM, Pandora, games. And then I have more useful ones such as Find My Phone in case it's lost or stolen. By the way, you should always copy down the important numbers from your devices. That would be under the general category and settings. So like the registration numbers and things like that. Another really good tool is a QR reader. Many parks, museums, and site displays use these now. You point your reader camera on your device at the code, and it will show you additional information about what you're seeing. The one in the corner of my handout takes you to my website. I had another major resource is, of course, my site. You can get inspired by the photos and the commentary about regions I've been to and get important tips as well as other useful tidbits for travelers. For example, pay close attention to the latest regulations that are kicking in for both domestic and international travel. Here you can find out more about that Real ID that was mentioned earlier and the New York State Enhanced Driver's License. For those of you who thought, all you need is a regular driver's license to fly within the United States. No, you're going to need to have Real ID or an enhanced driver's license or, of course, a passport. They keep changing the date constantly. So I have links on my website. Go to the links. They keep pushing it back. First, they said it was COVID and that it's logistics and all of that kind of stuff. So just keep checking before you go any place, because even a passport alone is not going to be good enough to get you into the UK or the EU. You're going to need the ETIAS for the EU and the ETA for the UK. They said now they've pushed that back to 2024. I don't know. Like I said, you have to go there because you need to have those before you leave. Everybody, they will not let you get it there, and they will not let you in if you don't have them once they finally institute these. So everything is hyperlinked. You can go to the original sites. Also, if you're traveling out of the country, look at the STEP program. That's a government program, the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. It connects you with an embassy. And you can also look on here about information about insurance when you're traveling, both the kind for travel and medical as well. So this is all under the tips tab on my website. We made it just a little over the hour, but I like to end all of my programs with the words of Dr. Seuss that sometimes you don't appreciate the moment until it becomes a memory. And I like to add to that to say, always remember to celebrate the moments and treasure the memories. And I do hope you found something useful out of this program. Again, to download your travel planner or an extra list of the digital tools, you can go to the Going Solo on my website. Anybody have any questions? Because they said they are not putting the room out to anybody else right afterwards. So if anybody has questions, I have time. No, I covered everything.
Going Solo, what is that?
Going Solo is one of my other programs, and I talk about traveling independently, safely, and deal with a lot of the issues that people are somewhat concerned with. It's an interesting phenomena that most Europeans, no problem traveling independently, male or female. Americans, for some reason, are a bit more anxious about traveling independently. And the thing is, it is a big market these days. Doesn't necessarily mean somebody is divorced or widowed or whatever. There's a lot of couples that one of the spouses just simply doesn't like to travel and the other does. So it's a very big market right now. It's growing bigger and bigger. And a lot of places are even making certain accommodations, like cruise ships are even building solo cabins now. So I do that program as well. Some libraries book it. You can check on my website. Again, on the website itself, on the programs page, you're going to find a list of the dates and places that I'm doing in-person programs. And you're going to see all of the other flyers, that you could just click on. It will bring up like you saw at the very beginning. And the libraries, you can check with them and find out who's offering the video version and who's offering the in-person. The in-person basically is just not too far from here, because I live not too far from here. And so I kind of decided to keep it local because I got tired of driving into Freeport at night. And so mostly around here, you'll get the in-person ones, and then other ones off of the videos though. And not all libraries require that you're a resident. So you could always check if there's something on there. And if there's something that you want, like say you want the Going Solo, which I did here, but now many years ago, you can ask your librarian to see about arranging it. And now we're going to do the raffle. Again, with the raffle, they used to have all the items out there so people could drool over them and figure out what they wanted to get when they won. But of course, that doesn't allow for social distancing. So what I do now is I put them up here so you can take a look. Let me count them off. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We did get an entire full house. How about that? Oh, you could go into one of the cruise apps that I gave you. They'll have them listed there, like the QE2 that goes over. The turnaround cruise is usually one where they're repositioning the cruise ship. Like they'll do Southern Caribbean during the winter time, and then do Europe in the summertime. And so sometimes it's a little bit cheaper if you take when they're transitioning and they move it, because they don't want to move an empty ship. So you can get a deal that way. Then you have to usually fly home. Yeah. So some of them make it as a package deal, or sometimes, you know, even the tour groups like Globus Tours or something like that will set those up. So you can check it out. To go on a Caribbean cruise yeah. I'm not sure what you're asking. Yeah, you need a passport. You'd have to give that to you. That's what I'm telling you. The rules are changing. You used to only need a passport to get into Europe. You used to just take a driver's license to go to Canada. Your driver's license isn't good enough anymore. And if you are going by land, okay, there are actually, you're right. There is some Caribbean, not all of them. Some of them, like the U.S. Virgin Islands and things like that. Yeah, you would need to have though a real ID or an enhanced license. The regular license is not going to do much for you anymore. I wouldn't count on that anymore, because that's like I said, this real ID goes into much more detail. And so that's the bigger thing. Again, they keep changing the dates on when these are all getting phased in. And like with Canada, you can use the real ID if you're going by land or by sea, but not if you're flying in. So you really do have to go and keep on top of it, because it is constantly changing. Oh, okay. That one I actually go into in my Going Solo program, but I'll give it to you now, because you've been like such a great group. And the program, it depends on whether or not you're flying internationally or you're flying locally. So your question, basically, make sure I got it right, is that what's the best one to get you through TSA faster? Right? Okay. So if you're flying only domestically, then TSA Plus is enough. Okay. And that will they do a background check on you, and then presumably you go through a little bit faster, because you don't necessarily have to take the belt off or the shoes. Although when I went over to Portugal, they were checking everybody, unless like I had just sandals that didn't have any metal on them. So they let me go through without taking them off. But other people were having to take them off, even TSA. Now, let's get this going at the same time. As far as traveling internationally, and that costs you like, I think $80 for 5 years, something like that, right? Now the global entry is the other one. That's if you're traveling internationally. And I have to tell you, I had my doubts about it. I was a friend of mine though said, yes, it really is a faster way of going. And so I said, all right, I'll give it a try. And so I got I signed up. Now I signed up. I decided Thanksgiving last year that I was going to do it. and they tell you you could wait 6, 8 months to get through it, right? And I was going to Portugal. I was leaving the end of February. So I figured, all right, I'm not going to get it for that. I'll have it. I'm going to Europe, the United Kingdom in July. So I figured at least I'll have one time to use it, right? So I went online. You have to fill out an online form. They ask you all kinds of millions of questions. And then somebody is going to review that and get back to you and let you know if you qualify to get an appointment or not. And by the way, you pay $100 then, and you don't get it back if you don't qualify. And they said that process could take months. Okay. So I put that in. The next day, I got the notice that I was approved. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then I went on to go see when I could get an appointment. Now, this was the right after Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving. The first time I could get was January 19th. Okay, but I had read in a blog online that okay, I'm going to start this around. Take one and just pass it around. I had read that you should keep checking back because sometimes people cancel and the dates open up. 4 times I was able to move it up from January 19th to December 9th. It was 8 or 9. Yes, you have to go to JFK. They put the fear of God in you on the website. You're going to have an intensive background check, a thorough interview. You have to bring documentation. You have to bring proof of your bills. I pay most of my bills by credit card online, automatic pay. And so I had to go in and print out bills. So right there, I could have made them up. But okay, so you have to print out the bills. I had to prove my divorce. I had to prove I owned my house and blah, 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 blah. Right. So I got all my paperwork. And of course, you're wrecked. Did I get everything? Did I miss something? Right. I have to take the train in. I take the air train to Terminal 4. And I'm there for my appointment. And I get called into a little ante room. And I was there 3-4 minutes maybe. And then I got called into my person, right? So my person says, what's your name? I tell her, what's your address? Okay. Have you committed any crimes? Are you being investigated for any crimes? No, 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 no. Look here. Where's your passport? Here it is. Put your fingers there. Here's your number. And I walked out with my number.
They never looked at your bills.
Not one. And I walked out and there was this lady I talked to online. And as I came out, she says, what happened? Did you forget something? You're done so fast. I said, no, I'm finished. And her husband said, did they look through all your papers? I said, not a one. He said, I was up all night getting this stuff together. So, I mean, you never know. That could not be, maybe that's because it was Thanksgiving week and they had their B team on. Who knows? Could have just been lucky. Thank you. But I mean, so you don't get thrown off, in other words, either by things that maybe seem a little bit daunting. But when I came back from Portugal, after I'd gone through having the flight delayed, and then of course missing the connecting flight, and then the other flight, and the time difference, and the flight itself, I was kind of beat by the time I had left my hotel at 6 a.m. Portugal time, and I got in to Ronkonkoma about 11 o'clock our time, right? 10 o'clock our time at night. So I was kind of beat. But when I had gotten into to the airport, rather, to customs, I walked in, big customs hall, and I'm like, oh God. And then I saw the kiosks in the corner for global entry, right? They were empty. I went over, a voice told me, take your mask off, look at the screen, take the slip of paper, go to the guy at the desk and show it to him. 2 minutes. From the moment I walked through the front door in to the door out, 2 minutes. Again, is that always going to be the case? I don't know, but I was really grateful that night. I'm saying $100, it's worth it. So anyway, what can you win? Photo album. All of these are basically, whether you're traveling or not, you can use them. A journal, because if you are traveling, you always think you're going to remember why you took that picture or what that was. And no, you could get a travel flashlights, which you can clip on backpacks or whatever. I actually have them all over the house just to be convenient. A luggage tag. This is a pouch. If you're traveling, it's separated so you could keep receipts and things in there. If you're not traveling, put your coupons in your shopping list and go to the store. These are an eyeglass pouch case that have a clip. So again, you can clip it to your belt loop or something like that. Sunglasses are handy. A little travel dental kit there. Of course, the ubiquitous travel hand sanitizer and the eye mask, so that if you're traveling, some people like that. I can't sleep on a plane, but some people like to have that. If you're not traveling, and you've got the grandkids over, you can sit in the living room and that sends a real clear message. Don't bother me. Okay, so I'm gonna turn the lights on so I can see what the number is. So watch your eyes.
Country program, country do.
What I did, I had to change it.
Yeah, unbelievable country program.
I don't know if I can get internet in here. But let me finish this first, because I don't have it on the bar anymore going across because I had to consolidate and put all Europe underneath one. But you can just drop down that menu and you'll see all of the European destinations and now some of the United States ones. The last three digits are 229. You have to have a winner. That would be you. Okay. You, what would you like? Okay. Now, a thing about luggage is that you should never have your name and address visible. All right. So what you do is you put your name and address and then turn the card around backwards if it's a see-through kind of thing or whatever. I have it rigged for you, so it's okay here. But that's because they do have gangs that stand at airports. And if all of your suitcases with your addresses are right there, they know what places are empty and they have little gangs that they call somebody and they will go and rob your house. Okay. Here you go. You can pick which one you would like. Okay. You have an assortment.